Okay, so I'm going to share the screen again. Not to let you late, okay, and forgive me late. So again, in brief, what we talked about recently, some phonetic terminology, okay, like intonation, weak forms, contractions, schwa, okay, rhythm, and pitch movement, okay, pitch movement. And we're going to complete about some terminology to finish today's session and complete it next time, inshallah, okay? Sure. So here again, we have talked about schwa, weak forms and contractions, okay? And the schwa, of course, is the most common sound in English. It's a weak and unstressed sound that occurs in many words. The second terminology is about contractions, refers to words that are shortened when spoken, And the number 3, weak forms. They are syllable, of course, syllable sounds that become unstressed in connected speech. We've also talked about some other terminology like pitch movement, stress, intonation, and rhythm. Okay, so stress is about the sounds you emphasize in individual words, of course, either the first syllable or the second syllable. Okay. The second is we talked about rhythm, and it's all about the strong beats or the weak beats or the unstressed words. Okay. Also, we talked about intonation and the way, of course, the pitch of a speaker's voice goes up or down. The voice goes up or down as they speak. We use it to make our message clearer. And of course, pitch movement. Of course, it's the quality of the voice changes, the change in the voice. Okay. As a speaker communicates, and English often uses changes in pitch to communicate meaning, especially, of course, attitude. Oh, really? Okay.
Actually, like we do in Arabic as well. The English and Arabic are the same in this. We for example, when you talk.
Noha.
I'm sorry for interruption.
No. بالعكس, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to make this a little bit clearer because it was confusing for me. That the change of pitch meaning the change of the kind of voice that you use, not how loud it is or how low. So, for example, when you talk to your son and say some sentence, for example, can you get me this? Is different from when you use this with a colleague, is different from the voice that you use with a superior. You can, I think we can all sense this change in our voice, the change of quality rather than the loudness. And this is what we mean by pitch movement.
Yes. والفكرة ببساطة بالعربي كده، عارفين يا جماعة زي ما نقول نفس الكلمة بس بأكتر من طريقة. يعني ممكن أقول لواحد يا بجد اللي هو اسلوب استهزاء، بجد اللي هو بخوفه. يعني هنا البيتش مقصود بيه ان انا بستخدم ممكن نفس الحاجه، هي حاجه واحده بس نبره صوتي فيها بتختلف فبتدي معنى مختلف تماما. ممكن تدي معنى ان انا استهزاء، ممكن تدي معنى تخويف، ممكن تدي معنى تهديد، ممكن تدي معنى امر، وهكذا. فالبيتش هنا مقصود بيه اللي هو نبره الصوت اختلافها، سواء بقى ان انا بعليها او ان انا بخفض الصوت بتاعي حسب ما انا عايز اعبر عن ايه. هل انا بعبر عن تهديد، بعبر عن مثلا استمرار بنفس الكلمه بستخدمها كسؤال، نفس الكلمه بستخدمها كهزار او تهريج. فهو ده المقصود بالبيتش. صح كده يا نهى ولا ايه؟ ولا انا برضه confusion بالنسبه لي؟
It's very easy to see when you're using an audio device, for example, and you can change the pitch of the voice. It becomes thick and it becomes thin. Hello.
Yes.
Hello. You see, this is a change of pitch.
Yes.
Hello. A change of pitch rather than a change of volume.
Yes. وبالظبط كده زي ما بنكلم حد
sorry.
بطريقه رسميه، بكلم مثلا المدير بتاعي ازاي حضرتك، بكلم صاحبتي ازيك حبيبتي عامله ايه، فنفس الكلام هو بس حتى نبره الصوت
change of
بتتغير
pitch
ان انا
made a
بتكلم.
difference. Yeah.
Yes, make a difference in
Okay,
meaning of
excuse me,
course.
excuse
Yes,
Miss Firdaus.
yes, go ahead.
There is some لا no رحاب سامية.
Yes, okay, Samia. Yes, Miss Samia, go
Okay,
ahead.
I think I have some confusion with intonation, because pitch movement I think like or the similar meaning is intonation. I have no difference between the
No,
two.
no, no. Okay, my dear friend، هو الفكرة كلها يا جماعة فعلا ان هم كلهم متقاربين جدا في المعنى، ولكن البيتش هنا يا ميس سامية ممكن يبقى في كلمة واحدة بس نفس الكلمة دي. يعني لما اقول لحضرتك مثلا ايه، اهلا وسهلا بحضرتك، بقولها مثلا لمديري، غير ما اقول لي اهلا او بنتي مثلا، فهي ممكن تبقى كلمة واحدة نبرة الصوت فيها بتختلف. الانتونيشن بقى يعني is more general ومور complicated شوية، لأنه ما بيخصش كلمة بس، ده it's all about connected speech. يعني when I say what are you doing Samia?
It is connected to pitch as well, but in a different way.
Of course, yeah, in
Yeah,
different way, but it's
about
more
how the level of pitch changes, and this is changes the intonation. Okay, so
yeah, of course, yeah,
it's part of
yes.
intonation as well.
Yes, pitch Miss Samia is a part of intonation. Intonation is the umbrella which has all the
Other
terminology
elements,
under it.
yeah, other than pitch.
Yeah, the other elements. And intonation is the main word or the biggest terminology. And intonation, we have stressed and unstressed syllables. We have pitch, we have rhythm, we have falling,
volume
we have
as
rising. Yeah, we have volume. We can raise our voice. We can lower it down. We can answer. We can ask questions. We can tell sentences. We can give comments. So it's all about the most important or common terminology of phonetics is in the word intonation. All the other terminology is just a part of intonation. When we talk about weak forms and strong forms, when we talk about stressed sounds or stressed words and unstressed words, when we talk about the difference or the change in the pitch. For example, when we are asking a yes/no question, with the changes, the change differs, or the change we start with rising, falling. Are you okay? Are you okay? So here it's rising, falling. Are you okay? So here the pitch changes according to.
So this is a pitch movement, first of all.
Yeah, this is a pitch movement. But what about intonation? What kind of intonation? It's rising, falling. To ask yes no question. It's different in WH questions. Okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? And so on. So a pitch movement is just a part of intonation, I think, as I think. Okay. And I think next time, inshallah, when we watch a video, everything of all these terminology will be more clear or clearer. Because when we have, yes.
It's for those, sorry for interrupt you,
No
for
problem
interruption,
at all.
but I think it's a complicated thing here, because it depends
No.
on someone. It depends on someone who tries to differentiate between them. I think it's a
only because it really happens on subconsciously. You do this automatically. It's because we're trying to analyze what's happening. This is why it gets confusing. But normally you do it without thinking.
Yes, we do it automatically and spontaneously in speaking, of course. And we're going, inshallah, after a minute, just when we have some terminology, it becomes more complicated and difficult to differentiate between or among the different words. But when you watch a video about how to practice this, you'll find it a little more, to a great deal. It's very easy and simple, and we all do it automatically, as Noah has just mentioned. Okay. So, but we have to know the different meanings, different terminology about phonetics, and of course, what we care more about is how to practice these or apply them correctly with our students or our learners, of course. The target here is not to know them or to keep them by heart or to keep them in mind, but how to practice and apply these terminology of phonetics automatically with our learners. And we all
and
do
also
this.
to be aware of them when we hear them. And this is, I think,
course,
the main point.
Yeah, and when one of your students or learners ask you what is this, you can tell him or tell her, this is called stressed, this is called stressed, or this is called unstressed, this is a weak form and this is a strong form, especially when we give them the content words and the contractions and the other words, like for example the definite articles. They are not, it's not important to stress them all the time, they are unstressed. When you tell them where to put the stress, is it on the first syllable or the second syllable? When you tell your learners to differentiate between the noun and the verb. So this part is very important, to be aware of the different parts of phonetics and of course intonation and all these terminology, and to be familiar with them and how to apply them. And this is again the most important part, how to apply the practice time. Okay, so let's see these terminology and watch a video to answer all our questions, and to I think inshallah it will clear all the confusion, and everything will be easy and simple inshallah. Okay,
I think the difference, Miss Firdaus, between them, it's common in poetry. I think in the secondary school, I think so.
in everything
study...
Miss Samia, by the way, in everything, not only poetry على فكرة، مش بس في البوetry to know the pitch and intonation, stress, all these things, in everything in the language. Okay, not only poetry.
If we don't use them, we will sound like robots, and we don't sound like robots even in normal life.
Yes, of course. And not only in poetry, Miss Samia, but in everything, in speaking or in reading sentences, reading passages, saying words, saying verbs, saying nouns. In everything we pronounce as teachers of English, we have or we deal with all terminology, by the way. Okay, the video will clear all these confusion, inshallah. Okay. Okay, Miss Samia.
Okay, Miss
Samia, are you still there with us?
Yes, I got it.
Yes, okay. Okay. I'll show you a video, inshallah, and just later on, okay, about intonation. You'll find all these terminology are included under the word or the terminology intonation, okay? It's from Oxford, okay? So let's see these terminology and watch a video. And after that, say good night, inshallah, okay? Not to let you so late like this, okay? So here we have other 4 terminology: linking, assimilation, elision, and intrusion. So I'm going to read again the sentences, and okay, I'm going to ask one of you to read number 1, and let's all guess what is it. Is it linking? Is it assimilation? Is it elision or intrusion? Okay. So who can read the first one? Who can read the first one?
Yes.
Are you lazy? Okay, yes, go ahead.
Is a process where sounds in different words change when they are put together in speech. The second sound changing to be more similar to the first. For example, white bag can sound like white bag when you say it.
Yeah, so again, it's a process where sounds in different words change when they are put together in a speech. If you read them separately or alone, it will be different. But if you put 2 words together after each other's, they will be connected together like one word. Okay, as in white bag, it will be white bag. So what is it?
Assimilation.
Okay, I don't know. I'm guessing, I'm trying to guess with you and check at the end. Okay. The second one, it's when sounds disappear, and the focus on the word disappear as part of natural connected speech. Examples include unstressed schwa in words like different or library or stuff, and the sounds in consonant clusters like Christmas and sandwich. So what is it?
Elision.
Okay, we don't know. We're gonna check. Number 3 is when two vowel sounds meet. When two vowel sounds meet, and you listen, you insert an additional ya sound, okay, or wa or ra sound to mark the transition between the two. What is it?
Introduction.
Okay, how are we gonna check? I don't know. The fourth one is when a vowel sound meets a consonant sound. A vowel sound meets a consonant sound and you drag the final consonant to the initial sound or vice versa. What is it?
Linking.
Let's check. Okay. The first one, excellent, is assimilation. Like when we say sit down, we don't say sit down. When the sound is followed by the, it's sit down. We do not, the t sound disappears, it becomes sit down. Like in white bag, like a piece of cake, it becomes a piece of cake, and so on. So assimilation is a process where sounds in different words change when they are put together, and this is very important. They change to another sound. When they are put together in speech, the second sound changing to be more similar to the first. For example, white bag can sound like white bag when you say it. Let's see the second one. Good game, good game. Tin pen, tin pen, tin pen. Tin pin bowling. It was a good game of tin pin bowling. Okay. So the second one, right, elision. It's when sounds disappear as part of natural connected speech. Examples include unstressed schwa and words like different library or ta, and da sounds and consonant clusters like Christmas and sandwich. Okay. Let's stop. Let's stop. Next village. Next village. Let's stop for lunch in the next village. Okay. So some letters or sounds disappear. Excellent. Number 3 is intrusion. Is when two vowel sounds meet and you insert an additional ya or wa or a sound to mark the transition between the two. Like, I like the red, I like the apple. I like the apple. This, I like the orange. Okay, let's see. I always. Two apples. 4 oranges. I always eat 2 apples and 4 oranges for breakfast. Okay, so it's intrusion. And the last one, you're really wonderful. You're awesome. It's linking. It's when a vowel sound meets a consonant sound and you drag the final consonant to the initial vowel or vice versa. Okay. It's no problem becomes it's no problem. Not at all becomes not at all. Okay. So you're really amazing. So let's practice. Before we practice this, okay, features of connected speech. I'm going to start sharing this and I'm going to let you watch a video. Are you ready for one last video?
Yes.
Okay. Inshallah. I'm going to let you watch a video on YouTube, okay, about intonation. It will clear everything, inshallah. And you can share me popcorn. My dear daughter prepare some popcorn for me. Okay. Don't laugh, Ala, please. Yes. Okay. And tell me, please, when you can hear the Yes, it's
مش
clear.
هينفع كده يا جماعة.
Okay.
قلنا عايزين نلعب كورة، لمسة ولعبة. لمسة وإيه؟ لعبة. ودي سرور.
High, low. The most important are the first four: rising, falling, and combinations of rising and falling tones. Flat tones, including high and low tones, aren't common and don't have many uses, so we won't talk about them today.
However, rising and falling tones can each have many different meanings. Keep this in mind. One intonation pattern does not mean one thing. The same intonation can have different meanings in different situations. Also, intonation is flexible. There are rules, but the rules are not 100% fixed. Different people speak in different styles. Let's practice. Here's a word. Let's try saying the word with different intonation patterns. Repeat after me. Rising. Where? Falling. Where? Rising, falling. Where? Falling, rising. Where?
Let's try one more time with two words. How many? Rising. How many? Falling. How many? Rising, falling. How many? Falling, rising. How many?
If you can pronounce these 4 intonation patterns, you can already do most of what you need in English. So, how do you use these intonation patterns? The most basic rule is that you use a falling tone to show the end of a sentence. For example, I live in Madrid. She's a lawyer. We might be a bit late.
You can use a rising tone to show that your sentence isn't finished yet. For example, I live in Madrid, but I was born in Canada. She's a lawyer, although she isn't working at the moment. We might be a bit late because I don't finish work until 7. That's the most basic rule. And it's important. If you don't use rising and falling tones in the right places, people won't understand whether you've finished speaking or not. However, there are many other ways to use these intonation patterns. Let's look at another. Did you get some bread?
I thought you were going to get the bread.
How are we going to make sandwiches if we don't have any bread?
We can go to the bakery and buy some sandwiches there.
But I think the bakery is closed on Saturdays.
It's not Saturday today, it's Sunday.
Oh. Can you work out what was going on in that dialogue? After the first question, did you get some bread? You heard 5 sentences. Listen again if you need to. Can you hear the intonation? Before, you heard that you use falling intonation at the end of your sentence. But here, the pattern is often the opposite. I thought you were going to get the bread. Do you know why that is?
This is our second rule about intonation. You use a falling tone to show that information is new, and you use a rising tone for old information. In this sentence, the bread has already been mentioned, so it's old information, and you pronounce it with a rising tone. However, the word you gets a falling tone because this is the new idea in the sentence.
Let's look at the next example. How are we going to make sandwiches if we don't have any bread? Here, the idea is the same. The bread is old information, so you pronounce it with a rising tone. The sandwiches are new information. This is the first time anyone has talked about sandwiches. New information gets a falling tone. In the next sentence, Which word is old information and which word is new information? Sandwiches are old information because we already mentioned them. So pronounce sandwiches with a rising tone. The bakery is new information because this is the first time anyone has mentioned it. So bakery has a falling tone.
In the last two sentences, the pattern is reversed, but the idea is the same. But I think the bakery is closed on Saturdays. It's not Saturday today, it's Sunday. In the first sentence, the bakery is now old information, so it gets a rising tone. The new information, with a falling tone, comes at the end of the sentence. You can see the same pattern in the second sentence. The old information, Saturday, comes first, and the new information, Sunday, is at the end of the sentence.
If you want more practice with this, go back to the dialogue. Pause after each sentence and repeat, trying to copy the intonation. Pay attention to the way intonation changes on the same word as it changes from new to old information. Now let's look at a very important use of intonation, questions.
English is my second language. I know the grammar and lots of words, but every day when I watch...
Where did you go for your vacation?
I went to Dubrovnik.
Is that in Croatia?
Yes, on the coast. Have you ever been?
No, never. Did you have a good time?
Very nice, though it's quite touristy.
You got back yesterday, right?
Yeah, late in the evening.
Are you feeling tired?
No, not too bad actually. In the dialogue, you heard 6 questions. 3 of them had rising tones, and 3 had falling tones. Do you know why the intonation is different in different questions?
Sometimes, when you're asking a question, you have no idea of the answer. You're asking a question to find out new information. In this case, the question has a falling tone. Where did you go for your vacation? Have you ever been? Did you have a good time? Sometimes, when you ask a question, you already have some idea of the answer. You're asking a question to check something or to confirm that your idea is right.
In this case, the question has a rising tone. Is that in Croatia? I think Dubrovnik is in Croatia, but I'm asking to make sure. You got back yesterday, right? I had an idea that you got back yesterday, and I'm confirming this with you. Are you feeling tired? You told me you got back late in the evening, so I guess you're tired. This means that the intonation of a question can change depending on the situation. If you use a falling tone, this becomes a question to find new information. This means you really have no idea whether Dubrovnik is in Croatia or not, and you want to know.
You can ask, where did you go for your vacation? If you ask this with a rising tone, it could suggest that you knew the answer before and you just want a reminder. You're checking something you already knew. You're not asking for completely new information. Using this intonation will help you to sound more natural, but it doesn't change the meaning of the question. However, there are many other intonation patterns in questions which do have different meanings. Let's look. What a fantastic film! Wasn't it great?
Are you insane? It was the worst movie I've seen all year.
Why would you say that? It was amazing.
Forget it. It's 2 hours of my life I'm never getting back.
Why don't we get something to eat? Your pick.
How about we just go home? I'm pretty tired. Again, you heard many questions in the dialogue. Can you see what was different this time? Before we tell you, think about a question. What does a question do? Most likely, you thought, a question asks for information. That's sometimes true, but actually, you can use questions to communicate many other ideas.
In these cases, a question might not need an answer. For example, you can use questions to make a comment about something. Wasn't it great? You can use questions to criticize someone or disagree with them. Are you insane? You can use questions to make suggestions. Why don't we get something to eat?
Can you remember the intonation in these questions? To make a comment about something, use a falling tone. Why would you say that? Doesn't he look smart? Isn't it delicious? To criticize someone, use a rising tone. Have you lost your mind? Why would you do that? Are you really that stupid?
To make a suggestion, use a falling tone. How about we just go home? Why don't you call and ask what's happening? Remember that intonation is flexible, and that's especially true here. You can also make a suggestion with a rising tone. How about we just go home? Can you hear the difference? How do you think it changes the meaning?
The suggestion with the rising tone sounds more like a real question because it sounds more indirect and hesitant. The suggestion with the falling tone doesn't sound so much like a question. It sounds more confident and direct. This brings us to our last point. You can use intonation to express many different emotions.
There's one intonation pattern we haven't talked about yet, rising-falling intonation. You can use this to express different feelings, positive or negative. Look at one word. You can use a rising-falling tone to sound excited. Really? You can use it slightly differently to sound annoyed. Really? You can use it to sound surprised.
Really?
Really?
Can you hear the difference between these three? Listen once more. Really? 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 You use a rising-falling tone each time, but in a slightly different way. To sound excited or surprised, you start and finish higher, but to sound annoyed, the tones are lower. Really? Really? To sound surprised, you often make the rising tone longer. Really?
You can also use other tones to express some emotions. For example, you can use a rising tone to express doubt. Really? You can use a falling tone to sound sarcastic. Really? Let's practice. You'll hear the same question with 5 different kinds of intonation. Which emotion am I expressing? Did you? Did you? Did you? Did you? Did you?
Okay, we hope you learned something useful about English intonation. We have a question for you. Is intonation in your language similar to English or not? Let us know in the comments because we're curious.
Okay, so what did you notice about this video? What did you notice?
I noticed that when we talk about new things, we use
falling intonation.
Falling tone.
Yes,
Falling
and
tone.
if we want to know an answer to a question.
Before this video,
again,
this video, I know that the different. When I talk about the new things, I use the rising intonation.
Yeah,
So
and again, if you focus on the video, they said a very important thing, which is intonation is flexible. It depends on the idea or the message you want to show the listener. So you can use also the same word, one word, to express doubt, to express surprise, to express annoyance, to express different emotions. So it depends.
You also said that it's different from one person to another, so it's not fixed.
Of course. Yes, and even if it's falling or rising, in some situations you can use falling intonation to show new ideas, and you can also use rising intonation to show new ideas, or for example making suggestions or showing an idea. Yeah, of course. So again, it's even the language is flexible. The target of teaching a language or teaching phonetics is to communicate with others and let them understand your message. So if you are able to communicate with others and they understand what are you telling them or what are you saying, so you are successful here. It's not about terminology. Of course, we have to be aware of the different definitions and different words and how to differentiate among stress, intonation, weak forms, and it becomes by practice all the time. Practice makes perfect, and also perfect practice makes perfect. If you try several times, and as you watched in the first video for James, the pronunciation of the letter C, you'll find that all the time he's telling or keep telling us that you can listen as much as you can repeat, or you can rewind the video several times until you're familiar and perfect at practicing and pronouncing the sound. So phonetics, especially the pronunciation as a main part of phonetics, depends on practice, depends on more listening and more speaking, of course. And the target is how to let others understand you and understand your message. If they can understand what are you telling or what are you saying to them, you are really successful and you are perfect at telling them. So I'll stop here because it's 11 past 2 now, and I know that it's too late because we're in winter and we're going to practice. Yes, we're going to have more practice and application next time, inshallah, an action plan about pronunciation. And bi'idhnillah, I'm going to let you watch other videos about the different terminology we have learned about today. So in brief, I want just you to tell me about one thing you like today in today's session. I know it's complicated and difficult because pronunciation is still the most difficult part in the language, because all of us are, I myself sometimes feel confused and feel afraid that I'm not perfect at some points, but I learn with you. All the time we are learning because life never stops teaching, of course. So did you like one thing in today's session? Did you like something? Only one thing?
Mrs. Firdaus?
Yes.
I like the topic about the pronunciation of C, hard C, and the soft C. This is helpful and beneficial for us as teachers. This is the most important topic.
Yeah, and I love this part. It's easy and simple. Okay, yes. What about you, the others? Do you like something today? I know it's a very hard and difficult part.
I would say.
Yes, okay, Mr. Ahmed, and it's an honor to have you today, wallahi, with Noha, May, and all of you. يعني
لا
I
حضرتك
feel
ما شاء الله عليك يعني عشان
ربنا يكرمك يا
كده
مستر. والله
أنا هستخدم
الموبايل
كلمة واحدة بس excited.
اتفضل يا مستر. Thank you. والله it's for me it's a real problem to work on the mobile, but I try والله I do my best to
لا والله ما
to
شاء
let
الله
the
حضرتك
message
يعني
be clear. ربنا يخليك يا مستر، جزاك الله
ما شاء الله
خيرا.
تبارك الله يعني